Prepare for battle.
One box could leave you messed up and fractured. Block these uppercuts, they may leave you captured. May the best fighter win and win again. Battle to the top until his life ends. But if his life ends and he starts to decay, may one of his street soldiers avenge things. See you talking to the game, couldn't be talking to me. I got enough to beat and more soldiers to bury. You know we just clicked in and made you realize this game is twice as hard. You see that with your own eyes. You're on the way to choose your type of life, cause you gotta. I tell you from now, which fighter will be the hotter. I don't think you want this one. Just practice, just challenge me when you're ready with your tactics. High punch, the spin kicks, watch your back split. I see you in the air when I make you backflip. Select to make your first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Select to make your first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Select to make your first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Select to make your first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One box could leave you messed up and fractured. Block these uppercuts, they may leave you captured. May the best fighter win and win again. Battle to the top until his life ends. But if his life ends and he starts to decay, may one of his street soldiers avenge things. See you talking to the game, couldn't be talking to me. I got enough to beat and more soldiers to bury. You know we just clicked in and made you realize this game is twice as hard. You see that with your own eyes. You're on the way to choose your type of life, cause you gotta. I tell you from now, which fighter will be the hotter. I don't think you want this one. Just practice, just challenge me when you're ready with your tactics. High punch, the spin kicks, watch your back split. I see you in the air when I make you backflip. Select to make your first pick.
Hey, what is up, internet? It is December, almost said September, December 16, 2025, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at the Gaming Academy. And welcome back to another episode. It is Tuesday over here. And today is a wonderful day because today is your headmaster's birthday. That's right. I'm your headmaster, GQ Asian Dude. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Academy. Hopefully you brought some notes, brought a friend, and all the good things above. Hope you guys had a great week. A wonderful kind of break. I know I had a pretty good weekend. Good times, good food, good company. So, but tonight is going to be a little bit different than your typical Gaming Academy Gamer Quotient show, because it is going to be class 57, and yes, it is a birthday class. It's going to be all about me. So, if you're wondering who's behind this craziness and what I'm all about, you may learn a little bit something tonight. So instead of just running through news and history, we're going to take some time to reflect on the games, the moments, and the lessons that shaped me as a gamer. So, for example, we're going to do Memory Card Chronicles. We're going to do about the stuff I kind of grew up talking about in video games and kind of look at the shifts, the grind, the struggles, and how I ended up at level 44 in this crazy, crazy game. So grab a seat, power up. Let's get into tonight's lesson. But yeah, I don't do this alone. Like you said, if you're here from another channel, fantastic. Good to have you. And of course, let's bring in our other professor here, Mr. Blazing Ace Nelson.
What's good, neighborhood?
Oh.
So, yeah, it looks like tonight's going to be the GQ Asian Dude Deep Lore session.
I didn't think about it that way, but yes, that's probably it. Well, I'm gonna strategically hide certain Easter eggs on the podcast, just like in Dark Souls. If you read the items, you'll learn a little bit more about me.
Heck yeah. Also,
It's official.
Yep.
It's official.
Brother is rocking the cap now.
And matches with his vest too. So gotta give him that.
Hey, look, if there's one thing that I've learned from the time that I've spent on my own, is that I actually like to accessorize somewhat.
Yeah. I think I always see you with either a vest or a jacket on your stream. You know, and if not, it's just too damn hot. Like that's usually the case behind that. So, but yes, any update from since last Tuesday? Anything noteworthy to bring up?
Well, like I was mentioning to you earlier, something I want to run by the class as well. I've been going through and playing Oversloop. I actually got a couple of clears on it now, and of course, much like with Hades, when you clear Oversloop, you can actually increase the difficulty level, and that opens up new weapon mods. It opens up new enemies, new paths through the levels. So, it's another action roguelike like Hades. So
Yeah.
it might be something you want to try out. Let's
Yeah.
see. Go ahead.
Terminator game came out.
Oh yeah, I've been
Okay.
watching Oliver play that.
Yeah. And what I hear, it's kind of neat how they added replay value.
It is.
Yeah, and I don't know if I chat cover earmuffs if you're not ready, but honestly, the way to design the game it's pretty cool. Once you beat it, it opens up new paths for you to play, kind of like alternate timelines.
Mhm.
So I think that was kind of clever how they did that. So, that's all I'll say about that. Check that out.
But yeah, other than that, finished up the campaign for Cosmic Invasion. Did my backlog review of it as well, and just looking forward to the next couple of months as far as games go. I mean, Soul Calibur 3 just got its PS5 port today.
Yes,
Actually.
I'm sure Max is all about that right now. He
Hell,
loves Soul Calibur.
Andre was streaming it earlier.
Was he? Awesome. Andre, let us know how the port is, if it translated really well, because I know the great port, awesome. Because I know that Soul Calibur 2 was kind of like mixed from what I hear from a lot of people. So if they did better with 3, awesome, that's fantastic. I heard Tekken 3 was really good, really well ported over. So they care. They care. So that's fantastic. All right. Anything else?
Let's see. Oversloop, Cosmic Invasion. Uh, went through went through the new content that they dropped for Monster Hunter the other day,
Okay.
and like with the new stuff that they added for the end game with the grind for getting the materials to beef up your weapons and your armor. I'm really liking that we got some more stuff to do now, and especially since the title update 4 with Gogmazios is like, we're coming into the last legs of Monster Hunter Wilds. So between that and in February when Arc Tempered Arcveld gets dropped, it's very likely that after that, like around that time in February, maybe a little bit after, we might start hearing some rumblings about a potential expansion.
Yeah, I think from the trend, we're gonna get that big update in February. That should address all the hiccups on the PC version.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, they're actually going through and like working out all the bugs between this update and the next one with AT Arcveld.
yeah, and I think because February will be the big update. That's going to be the update the PC players are looking for. But they're actually slowing. From what I hear, they're slowly fixing certain smaller bugs on the
Yeah.
way there, which is cool. That means that it's just they still care about the game. But I do have this feeling after February, it is the last update until whatever Iceborne comes out. Like their version of Iceborne. So, it just seems to be the trend. That's from what I noticed with the first Monster Hunter World. Is they did that, and at first we were like kind of disappointed. Oh, that's it, no more. And then they released Iceborne probably on the next big show, probably Summer Games Fest, most likely. Right, we'll get that announcement.
Yeah.
And then bam, and maybe like in the fall or winter, and we'll get another Iceborne. So,
Sounds about right.
where would you like them to go instead of like ice? Because I feel like we have ice in the game already.
Okay, so we got Iceborne and World. Yeah, and then there was, of course, Sunbreak with Rise.
Like, what
Honestly,
haven't we covered yet as far as like topography and like, you know, uh, like the land wise, area wise?
hmm. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually got some more. If we got some more underwater content, especially with how they did the fight with Legaicrus.
Like Icarus, yeah. I want more. I want more. Like you know what I want? This would be fun if more Elder Dragons showed up. Just like I like. Hopefully Nergigante shows up and was just like, hey, what's everybody doing up here?
Yes.
I'm the boss. It shows up. And then there's just chaos. They're all fighting for like supremacy, and then you're just caught in the middle. And what would be a good stage? I was thinking about this ago, would be to capture a monster while it's always fighting another monster. That hasn't been done yet, right? Like, because it usually the monster leaves,
Mhm.
right? But while like this thing is like we're literally like kaiju battling. These guys are kaiju battling, and our mission is to not kill it because that would be too easy, but to capture it like alive while also trying to not let the other kaiju kill it. See, that's a challenge right there.
Huh. No, I can see that.
Because one thing that I can think of is like the other like we may try to have to make the other monster fall asleep first so we can capture the other thing. So it's a little bit more tactical, right?
Mhm.
So they can do stuff like that that hasn't been done yet to kind of change up the game a little bit. To it's not just like a DPS mode game.
Yeah, and other than that, though, there's one other thing that I'm really wishing for, aside from bringing back Nergigante, because that boy needs to come back. They need to bring back the other weapon types from Monster Hunter Frontier.
Yeah, and that could possibly be in the DLC because didn't they add a weapon type in Iceborne?
No.
No, they just fully just had all the weapons in world already.
Mhm.
So that could be something to add value to the game. They should always be adding, not taking away, in my opinion, right? So hopefully that's something they're considering, and that would help freshen up the game a little bit, especially since I'm sure if you are a rabid Monster Hunter player, you've probably played through all the weapons now, killed all the monsters, got all the items, and you're looking for something new. And adding another weapon would be great to kind of just like change things up for those players out there. So
Oh yeah.
that'd be fantastic. All right. Well, how about this? Let's move on to our Memory Card Chronicles, the Headmaster Edition save file level 44.
Let's get to it.
All right. As you know, there are two memory card slots on a PlayStation, memory card A, memory card B. In this segment, we're going to split it up into 10 things the headmaster that is about my memories as a headmaster here at Gaming Academy. But the first 5 will be based off my lifetime as a gamer. 1 through 5 will be based on my lifetime as a gamer, and 6 to 10 will be my last year as a gamer. It's a little bit more updated. We're not going to go that far back, right? So, with that said, let's start off. I'm going to throw some video in the background so it's interesting to look at over here. Hey, there we go. How about this? Let's do this.
There we go.
Got some Top Gear in the background.
Oh, man, this is already taking me back.
ROTK. Don't worry, Chad. There's 300 of these in the video. So, thanks, Blue. Thanks for the greeting. But yes, memory card A, memory card, memory chronicle number 1. The question is, what was the first gaming memory that hooked you? Well, I wrote it all down. Let me share with y'all. All right. So when I think about it, about the very first gaming memory that truly hooked me, right? It goes all the way back to when I was about 5, 6 years old. And I think I've said this on the chat before. The first game that really grabbed me was Gauntlet on the NES because that was what my stepbrother at the time brought over. Well, he was visiting us from California, and I was living in Chicago. I had never seen whatever he brought in before, this box with controllers. Like, I'd never had experienced a video game before, right? And he was like, "Hey, check it out." And I just started pressing buttons, and then once you get familiar with it, oh, this is cool, this is fun, and it wasn't an Atari, it was completely an NES, and he popped in Gauntlet. Still remember that really awkward Tengen cartridge that was slanted in the where you grabbed it. That's how it was, right? And I was almost instantly enthralled. There was something about it, right? The characters, the dungeon, the idea you could explore, fight, and survive. That immediately pulled me in. Now, I didn't really fully understand what I was experiencing, but I knew one thing for sure. This is fun, and this was different. Okay? The moment that mattered to me because the first time I ever experienced a video game, not just played one, experienced one. That was the moment. It wasn't Mario. It was I picked the Valkyrie, and I was just going through dungeons, shooting, my sword, and I was looking for the exit. As simple as that. Actually, Gauntlet kind of looks like Soul Blazer. It's kind of interesting. Um, and that's what I knew. I was like, I think I like video games, right? Gauntlet on the NES became my first real gaming memory, the one that really hooked me for life. Heck, I'm still talking about it right now. And you know what they say? You never forget your first time. So that is the spark. That's where it all started. Now, memory two, the struggle. What does that mean? Well, what game or moment taught you patience, failure, or perseverance? You know, I would say when I think about a game that taught me patience, failure, and perseverance, the first thing that comes to mind is Final Fantasy 4 or 2 if you're in Japan. Of course, it's 4 in America, or 4 in Japan, 2 in America. Sorry, that's just how it was over here. When I was a kid, I just did not understand RPGs. That was just not my thing. And at some point, I was like, this is probably not the type of game for me. The idea of leveling up, managing stats, equipping gear, none of that really clicked for me. I just thought you played the game, bought better weapons, stocked on potions, and pushed forward. I had no idea what the concept of leveling was. I know that sounds crazy, but little James was just not it at all. I had progressed enough in the game, and I got into a certain area, and I just couldn't move any forward. I think it was just like the cave where you fight Ultros. If you guys remember that,
Mhm.
that's where I got stuck for the first time. Ultros was just giving it to me, right? Could not move forward. I was like, why is this game so hard? I'm running out of potions, and my buddy basically just said, you got to level up your characters. And I was like, what does that even mean? Yeah, that sounds crazy. But yeah, that was the defining moment for me, where the time where I struggled in the video game because I did not understand it. Right, I did not know what an RPG was, the idea of how it's built, how it's designed, the fact you had to level up your characters, learn spells. I was just going through the game like level by level. So that was the moment where I would say I struggled the most. Now, the bonus story to this was the other moment of this was I did not know what a scripted fight was. So that's spoilers. That scene where you become Cecil, or the paladin for the first time,
Mhm.
and you have to fight your old self as a Dark Knight. You're supposed to lose in that fight. And I was so stubborn that I had used up all my MP, all my potions, and I was like, I can't beat this guy. And then when I finally lost, I was like, oh, I was supposed to lose. I did not know what that was. That was the first time I had experienced a scripted fight, or a scripted moment in a video game before. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that it's kind of weird to like mention it and talk about it, but the fact that I'm acknowledging that, yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing, but hey, you when you're young, you learn, right? So that's another lesson for you here. Sometimes failure is not a punishment. Sometimes it's how the story moves forward. It's a good one. Now, between the mechanics, the narrative, and those scripted moments, Final Fantasy IV didn't just teach me how RPGs work, it deepened my love for them. It taught me patience, perseverance, and that sometimes progress just means understanding why you're failing. So that's a pretty good one. How about you? Do you have a struggle moment at all, Ace?
Uh, I'd say for me, like my big my big struggle moment was, you know, my actually my first time trying to play through Double Dragon 2 on my own.
Okay.
Because again, I was just barely, really getting into beat 'em ups in detail. But, more often than not, I'd play through it with my brothers. So, there was always someone there to, help me learn the game and, kind of carry me, make up for, any gaps in my knowledge or skill. But, there was one point where I decided, you know what? You know, my brother's not going to be around all the time. You know, he's got his friends. He's not into video games as much as I am now. So I got to be able to actually do this on my own.
Mm.
And man, that game kind of beat the perseverance into me.
The my memory of that game was the button layout where like the buttons shifted which depending which way you were turning.
Mhm.
And that was the I was like, I don't understand this. Why is this happening? But I got over it. You know, you just I had to rewire my brain, my child brain, to play it. But it worked out eventually. But that was the first time I had experienced that control scheme. That was kind of wild. So pretty crazy. What is a Gemfire? Oh, Koei. That's just. It looks like a Roman or a yeah. It could be like fantasy, like ROTK. Interesting. All right, number 3, The Shift. Now, this is the question is when did you realize games could be more than just games? When did I get my, my like my mutant powers activated, I guess. Well, there have been a lot of moments in gaming where I thought, "Oh, this is cool. This is awesome." Or man, that's just sad. But the moment I realized games could be more than just games, I would say that moment belongs to Final Fantasy VII. And I know, it's kind of cliche. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of people's moments is Final Fantasy VII, especially around my age. But when I was a kid, like I said, honestly, I didn't know too much about RPGs. But by the time Seven had released, I was a big fan, right? Um, and I think Seven really brought out the emotion due to the music because there wasn't voice acting quite yet and there were cutscenes that helped out with the moment, right? And I know I'm not alone in this, but the moment, spoilers for
Mhm.
those who haven't played it yet, the moment Sephiroth kills Aerith, you just don't lose her in the story. You lose her as a playable character. And that was the first time that ever happened to me, where a character you've had for the longest time is now not available for you to use. So it made the death way more permanent and way more it hit you harder because now you just didn't have that character to play with. Kind of crazy if you think about it. Now, this was a character I had spent hours on, a character I had healed with, fought alongside, relied on, and the developers just made the decision to just take her away from me. So, and that was pretty rough. It just hit a little bit different. This was probably also the first time that I pretty hit pretty hard. Like I actually like was sad and I like cried and I was like, "Oh my god, like it's so sad," at a video game. Like from what I remember, that's probably the first like emotional moment I really had. Chrono Trigger had those moments, like that moment like Marley like hugs you when you get back. That was
Mhm.
pretty cute. But like the I think the cutscene really just hit you harder on 7 and the fact that like, that innocent little Aerith is gone now, and even the coolest villain killed her. But like, it's just rough. From what I remember, I was like, bro, I can't believe this just happened. Like, I called my friend. I was like, did you get to that point yet? I was like, I'm not gonna tell you what happens, but holy shit, but just get ready for it. So and it's funny because Sephiroth is his favorite character, and I was like, you're gonna love it and also hate it at the same time.
Right.
I know you will. And, he called me up and he was just like, okay, talk about yeah, screw that. It sucks. Okay. So that was really like the moment that it hit me pretty hard. Now the bonus story to this was I was a huge fan of Tifa Lockhart, probably the best girl in Final Fantasy in my opinion. And she was just like to me like what the relationship I saw her with Cloud, she was like the girl next door, right? And like she was like right by his side the whole time and just like never giving on him even though like Cloud was all about like Aerith ignoring Tifa a lot and they were best buddies when they were kids. So I was in high school at the time when this game had come out. When did this game come out? 1997, right?
Mhm.
So I was like a sophomore in high school I was awkward little nerd in high school, and I always thought like, man, I wish I had a friend girl like Tifa to always kind of like just hang out with, be kind of like that girl next door you just kind of hung out with and like just spend time with, right? Because we
Yeah.
never had that in that. I just thought it was very cute. Like she just, I remember like no one's gonna beat Tifa as far as best RPG girl companion, and and then they had Renoa and eight, and which to me was like, oh, she's just Tifa with a long dress. That's all it was. While I look for this picture, Ace, what was kind of your like shift moment when games was just more than just
For me, actually, it was Final Fantasy VI.
okay?
Well, around the same time, both Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger. Like I basically had played those two back to back because that was the time where I got that, where I got that that treasure chest of a freaking toolbox from my brother's friend on the football team. And, you know, we were going through, you know, playing Final Fantasy 6 and Chrono Trigger. And in 6, like the moment that kind of stuck out for me actually was it was the opera.
Oh, that was a good moment too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like, you know, the opera was also, the opera was telling a separate story, but then, the fact that you got caught up in it with, Locke and Celis while you were trying to, corner Setzer, and just there was something about the way the whole scene played out and the way everybody came together that just, you know, it it stuck with me. And the opera itself was just it was such a beautiful performance that I never would have thought possible, especially on a Super NES.
Mhm. Yeah, I was gonna say that, like, being able to, kind of, like, share what they have going on in their mind and express it through, like, pixels and the limitation of the hardware, like,
Mhm.
they did a really good job with it.
And then, of course, following that up, playing through Chrono Trigger and, experiencing the adventure with those characters. And yeah, you know, Chrono getting taken out by Lavos that first time. That that hit pretty hard just because, it's not, it's not just any character. This is your main
It's
character
the
getting
main character, yeah.
killed. And you're seeing how the oh god, I love rock and roll racing. Sorry. But you're seeing how the rest of the team is reacting to it. And it's not just, you know, it's not just Marl hugging you when you actually get Chrono back, but there was also that one character side quest, the one with Robo, where you go back in the past and you deal with the monster in the sand pit, and then you know the land there is just barren, and they're like, this this woman is trying to preserve nature. She's trying to plant this forest, and it's that thing where she wanted to preserve a legacy that she wanted to preserve a legacy for future generations that she would not be able to benefit from because it'd be beyond her lifespan. And just knowing that, when Robo steps up and says, you know what, I don't have to worry about the limits of the human body. I don't have to worry about getting tired. I don't age. I won't die. I may shut down, but that's about it. I will take on the task of reviving this forest. I'll stay here in this time period. Let's give it a good 400 years. And then, you travel forward, you complete the quest, there's the forest, and then just that scene where everybody's around the campfire. And that right there was a point where it's like, this isn't just, games being, more than what they have been up to that point, but it's the fact that such a great narrative was being told during that story. I mean, I like even then I had always wanted to, I had always wanted to get into comic books and into storytelling and, narration through some sort of some sort of visual medium, and seeing just how well it can be done in those two games, the kind of potential that there was for it, that that fundamentally and irrevocably changed me.
Robo moment. Got to plant those trees.
Yep.
I thought it was cool too to like if you go into like not the future or the present, like a little bit in the in between, you can see him plowing like the soil.
Mhm.
That's really cool. What did Leet say here? So Nixon chat. Never had a deep narrative draw until later in life. Still cool to hear you guys experience with it. Yeah, is it Mass Effect? Let me guess. Is it that may come up later on. I wanted to share this image here uh, because this is relevant to I think why Tifa is best girl. So in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a show called Saved by the Bell. And one of the characters in the show is Kelly Kapowski. But the actress's name is Tiffany Amber Thiessen. Tiffany Amber Thiessen. And so when I saw Tifa in Final Fantasy, I just thought of one thing. This photograph.
You know, that makes sense.
And I was like, that's her. That's
That
100% where they got this from. That has to be an inspiration of some sort. And I understand why I have a crush on Tifa. Like my high school James just had a crush on Tifa. And maybe it's all mental, but that's I think where I got it from. So
maybe it's all mental, but I mean the evidence is right there,
Jay
right?
goes,
It
Jay goes like,
makes
that makes so much more sense now.
right.
Yeah, even the suspenders, because she has suspenders in her
Mhm.
original costume, right? So yeah, that's kind of I think a part of it why I thought Tifa was best girl. So so fantastic. All right, memory number 4, the connection. What gaming memory is tied to another person? Well, this was a tough one. I kind of like try to think about this one very wholeheartedly. Um, but I would have to say I do have a lot of them. I think there's a lot of games that I associate uh, with certain people. Like I made friends through World of Warcraft, through online gaming, even through from the FGC. Made a lot of friends through that. Gaming has really connected me to a lot of people all over the place. But if I really think about it, the connection that sticks with me the most is probably when I was a kid growing up in Chicago. Is my best friend Gordon, which I actually just talked to like a couple weeks ago, which is I'm glad he's like still alive, and like he's still playing World of Warcraft.
Nice.
Um, Gordon and I were kids that grew up in elementary school. Met him in like 4th grade, and we were both variety gamers. We were playing everything, right? As we got older, though, our tastes kind of split apart a little bit. Like, but that just happens, like when you get older, right? And there were just certain genres that really brought like our friendship together, even though we started like playing different games. Like he's a big platforming guy, right? And clearly a MMO player. I don't play MMOs, and like I don't think platformers are like this not my first 3 to play.
Right.
Uh, but we were always playing fighting games, beat 'em ups, and hack and slash games together, and the occasional racing game, aka Uniracers. Shout out to Gordon and Uniracers.
Yes.
We grew up in the Nintendo and Super Nintendo era. I think, yeah, so I met about 4th grade. At that point on, we were just best bros. We like connected. We bonded through gaming. We played Double Dragon together, Super Double Dragon together. We ran through all the beat 'em ups on the Super Nintendo, like Rival Turf, right?
Mhm.
All those games. We did journeys. We did like this was before the internet, guys. So we would look up in the phone book, the yellow, white, I think yellow pages, and we would find every arcade in Chicago, and we would take the bus, the train, and have an adventure to go check out this arcade, right?
Heck yeah.
And he was my bro. Like we would do that together, and we discovered like arcades for the first time, like Aliens versus Predator. Like we both discovered that at the same time. We like just played Final Fight a lot. Like if there was a beat up game, we played it. If there was, we when we heard of DDR, we hunted for those arcades all over Chicago. So he was my guy when it comes to looking for stuff like that. He was my co-op partner, basically my player too. But I think at the same time, I would say he was also my number one rival when it comes to Street Fighter, Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat. I just remember fights and like our like 50 match sessions, like stuff like that. And just finding stuff, we're learning and finding stuff together all the time. And we both had different like tastes and characters too.
Yeah.
It's so weird, not really weird, but it's so refreshing to have a buddy that likes the same things you like, but picks the different characters that you wouldn't normally pick. There's something interesting and fascinating about that. Like we both like Mortal Kombat, but if I pick Scorpion, he picks Sub-Zero. If I pick Jax, he picks Melina. Like we don't have similar characters we get attached to, right? I picked TJ Combo, he loves Saberwolf. It was never the same character, which is super interesting. I think those fights, those matches really mattered. The wins, the losses, the trash talk, of course, the rematches, all part of the bonding. Gaming wasn't just something we just did. It's how we just kind of grew together as people. So shout out to Gordon. If you're watching, awesome. It's probably like super late there. He's still in Illinois. But the bond is still there. Like I said, I talked to him a couple weeks ago. But that was my dude. That was my childhood growing up with video. Gordon Duncan with a C.
Nice.
What about you, Ace?
For me, I mean, yeah, it's pretty much the same here on my end. I mean, as I was growing up, coming out of elementary and middle school, it was largely me and my older brothers, especially me and my actually, yeah, my older brother Stefan. He's about your age.
Okay.
In fact, he hit level 44 in September.
Oh, he's an oldie too.
But the big one for me, as far as like people that I got connected to, it actually largely started in middle school. It was me and my friend Bruce. Y'all might have probably seen him on previous streams, or maybe even here in the chat on some of the earlier sessions. But he goes his online handle is JFight. So if you remember seeing that name, yeah, that's him. Now that's the legend that not only got me my PS4, but like we pretty much did the same thing in San Bernardino that you did in Chicago. We would find different arcades, or we catch the bus, or even on some weekends, or even some days after school, we would just walk, and we would find these different arcades, or these pizza places, or laundromats. We'd find places to just check out the arcade cabinets. We'd hang out. We'd exchange ideas for stories. We just it was not just that social connection that we had, because between the two of us, we we had a relatively expansive circle of friends starting in junior high and high school, and it literally started with just the two of us hanging out together, and playing video games, visiting each other after school. And then Bruce introduces me to my homie Mike, who I still talk to this day. And through Mike and through Bruce, and through me, through some of the other folks that I had met, especially when I was on my own at the arcades, like we just kind of there was just this web of interaction, this web of people that each of us had known, and eventually just started bringing together around essentially, the two of us, our little core duo. And it was a lot of the same stuff too. When we get when we, play any sort of games, especially fighting games that had multiple characters, I was, you know, whenever I would pick Guile, he'd pick Chun Li. Whenever I'd pick Ryu, he'd pick Ken, and it was getting to know him through the choices that he made in those games. I mean, hell, even when we were sitting down running through Final Fantasy VII together for the first time, like the characters that he always kept in the team were, Cloud, of course, but Cloud, Tifa, and he kept Cloud, Tifa, and Red 13. Meanwhile, I focused more on Barrett and Sid.
And Cloud.
And yeah, but I mean, it was just, again, those differences between us, those differences in our play styles, those differences in our individual personalities really reflected in how we played those games together. And it made it so much easier for us to just, really bond. I mean, Bruce pretty much became another brother to me. And it was through gaming.
Yeah, and I think that's like a lot of stories that don't really get shared a lot, especially now since we have so much accessibility to people uh online, right? Like
Mhm.
people, I mean, people still make friends online. I'm sure they MMO players have lots of buddies that they have online they build a camaraderie with. But like I think that that moment that we had during our time where we had the person physically with us and then we went to go on an adventure, about video games. That I think that is like that is something now that kids won't get to do. Because it's like we can just download it. You're home, I'm home. We can just play it together, right? It's because everything's so accessible. Like the adventure of looking for that arcade together, like it's almost like treasure hunting, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully that changes down the road, and you guys find something like that to bond with somebody, like in person, and just it's just so much different in person. So try to get that if you can. All right, last all-time memory from memory card A, the identity lock-in. The moment when you realize gaming was a part of who you are, not just something you do. The moment where gaming became identity, not hobby. Now, this was a little tough one for me. I always considered gaming as a hobby, not really like gonna consume who I am, but the things behind me say otherwise. So that's always like my go-to. Like it's no matter what I say, if you look behind me, it doesn't match what I'm saying. But if there was a game to really made me think about this question, it was definitely not the Flintstones game, but it was definitely Diablo 2 when it had first come out on PC.
Mm.
Now, let me change the setting for you. I had just graduated high school. I was unemployed. I took a year off before I went to college. Diablo 2 had just released, right? And when I played Diablo 2, I played Diablo 2. I was playing it nonstop. 9 in the morning till 3 in the morning. Crazy. Wake up around 10, rinse and repeat, back at it, rarely leaving my room. Mom knocking up there. What are you doing? Get out and do something with your life. Like the stereotype kid that played video games all day. It happened. Like I was that kid. Uh, this was probably like just after the 2000, right? My mom was definitely not a huge fan of this. She was so sick of it. Go outside, get a job, apply for college, make something of yourself. All valid points, right? But here's where this memory becomes important. When my mom sat me down and told me I needed to do something beyond just playing video games in my life, my response back there wasn't defensive. It was actually surprisingly quite thoughtful. Now, I told her that video games taught me some stuff, and some of the stuff was strategy, problem solving, art, design, storytelling, narration, all the stuff we talk about today, and like in the video game design industry, right? Of course, this was the late 90s, early 2000s. Most adults didn't see that. They didn't understand games like Diablo 2 weren't just toys, they were complex creative works made by teams of talented people. These were, and that realization mattered. These were ideas that real people had, that put them on paper, concepts, and applied them using technical knowledge and created a product for us to consume, right? So this was also, I was in the time I was super into like nerding out into like Photoshop had just released, Macromedia Flash has just come out. I know that's dating me right there, and then Dreamweaver to publish websites,
Mhm.
right? So that was like, I didn't know what to do in college, but I knew I wanted to do something along those lines of programs. And I was trying to turn creativity and basically into a future, and I was seeing like video games as a really good way to apply that, right? Now, without even like fully realizing it at the time, I was basically using video games as my blueprint. They were my example, they were my proof that creativity, tech, and storytelling could coexist and that people could actually build careers around that. Now, I look back at it now, and that was probably the moment that really locked into place. I didn't just love playing video games. I believed in them. I defended them as I defended them with my mom, and I wanted to kind of join that, be part of that world. It's kind of like now I'm being a part of this world by doing this podcast, and talking about it. But I think that's my moment where I was like, I don't think I just play video games to play video games. This is actually, I like this. This is part of me, who I am, right? So that's kind of like my point in that. This one was really hard for me to capture, but I do remember my mom just like sitting me down, was like, "You need to do something in your life." And immediately I was like, "Well, I'm not wasting my time by playing games. I'm actually just learning a bunch of stuff that I can apply towards my creative field." But of course, that's all nonsense to adults that don't know anything about that. That's just excuses. So hopefully you don't have that. You have somebody that's supportive. What about you, Ace?
Well, for me, I could definitely say that the moment where I guess the moment where my mindset shifted as far as, you know, as far as gaming, really locking in as, you know, a core part of who I am as a person, that would have to be, I'd say, let's see, if I met Bruce back in 95. So yeah, I met Bruce in middle school. So this was, yeah, around 93, 94. And this was around the time where, arcades were still a big thing. I was in middle school, and like literally about 2 or 3 blocks from my place, there was a pizza place that I would go to every weekend. And sure, I was still in sixth grade at the time, but I met this guy there while playing Street Fighter Alpha. This guy, he was already like a sophomore in, sophomore in high school. And he would go on not just to be one of my closest friends and, part of that ever expanding circle that, originated from myself and Bruce. One of the first people that I made it a point to introduce Bruce to was, this older friend of mine, one of my earliest martial arts mentors, James. And it was actually through James that, you know, not only did I get more into anime as well as, me showing him some of the ropes as far as my early Street Fighter prowess, but with as good as I was at Street Fighter, me and James sat down, we got to talking, and he eventually mentioned that, he, he practiced martial arts and he was like really serious about this. And it reminded me of when I was taking, it reminded me of when I got into karate when I was like 8 or 9 years old, just to have a little something to do, right? But when James started, tying together a lot of martial arts philosophy you know, with Street Fighter, and as we sat down, we started watching anime, and he just really really opening up my mind, to, introducing me to, my first bits of cursory knowledge as far as Japanese culture and, you know, Japanese philosophy behind their martial arts. It just kind of, it started getting under my skin to a point where, I started picking up martial arts again. I started training under James. I actually started looking more into the philosophy behind different martial arts as well. And as I trained and as I grew, I had noticed how much I was starting to change because of gaming and because of what gaming had led me to. And it's like, this it's not just, these different heroes or these different characters that I'd play as. This these guys aren't cut from, you know, it- these guys aren't just, you know, pulled from the ether. There's thought processes, there's personalities, there's growth, there's actual lives behind these guys. And the type of person that I eventually wanted to grow up to be based on these characters, based on these heroes, you know, I could I could find bits and pieces of them just in my day to day.
There's that Mortal Kombat game I was talking about that I played with Gordon with. So martial arts and Street Fighter is where you really like connected, combined the two for you.
Yeah.
Not MK, no fatalities.
Uh, Not so much MK. I mean that I mean that basically was relegated to, the game that I'd play with my cousins because, they had the Super Nintendo and their dad, you know, and my uncle would, get those games for my uncle got Mortal Kombat for them. My uncle got Killer Instinct. But, like the meat and potatoes of it started with my friendship with James and with Street Fighter.
The core. I always say Street Fighter is the core of every fighting game anyway. The blueprint of Street Fighter is in every fighting game because they're the ones that really just get it started, right?
Mhm.
So, all right, we're gonna switch over to memory card B, the year before level 44. Okay, so these from memory 6 to 10, these were the last, this is what happened during the course of the year, 43 to 44. Memory number 6. What game did you return to this past year for comfort or grounding? This is easy. This is super easy. When I want to turn off my brain and play a game, this past year, I would say I easily can go back to SimCity 2013. It's the last SimCity EA had released before cutting the series off, right? And going, this is not, and they made a mobile version first of that. And before this was SimCity 4. I've been a huge fan of SimCity for as long as I can. And SimCity has always been my comfort game. I know some for the younger folks, it's like Stardew Valley, or any of those like farm simulator games, right? Uh, but to me, SimCity has always been my is the OG. I mean, some argue with Civilization. I like SimCity. That's all it is. I like Civ too, but SimCity is my goat. Um, Even as a kid back in elementary school, I was playing the original SimCity in the lab because our teacher said that like SimCity teaches kids systems and mechanics that can easily be applied through like logic, right? And because she would ask, "You built this and you built this. Why did you build it that way?" And it would help us kind of like explain our thought process, right? And this was like when Apple IIe's were just getting into the labs of schools. And
Yep.
so she was really impressed that like these kids were picking up these games and they were very good with them. And so I just had a natural like, attachment to SimCity 3000 when that game had come out on the Mac. I played that a lot. Eventually got it on the Super Nintendo, and then I think I got it on the PC as well, like on a DOS. Right? Wasn't didn't take a lot to run. Eventually, SimCity 4, and then SimCity 2013 is the last iteration. Now, I think there's just something to me. There's something about a game that's designing a city, watching it grow, evolve, function, just makes me calm. Or maybe I just was my dad was always like, "What are you? Do you want to be a mayor someday? Is that why you like this game?" I was like, "No, I just like designing." Kind of like how he designs like heating and ventilation systems for for big buildings. I like designing cities. Like it's probably urban planning is what they call it, right?
Mhm.
I think it taps into two sides of me at once, like the nurturing side and also the design side. You're not reacting, you're planning, you're not rushing, you're building. And emotionally, that's pretty grounding for me. If I had to pick a game series that would truly uh, have endless gameplay, if they were like, you have one game to play, and this is the only game you'll play, it's gonna be SimCity. Like I play this game like I'll turn it on, I'll play it, and then 6 hours will pass, and I'll be like, what happened? I'm not even done with this section of the city yet. So that's just how I lose myself in this game. That's how like it affects me, right? Like I
Right.
just zone into it. Um, but I would say like SimCity 4 is a better game, but I personally like 2013 because it simplifies a lot of stuff. It integrates with the Sims. You can actually add your Sims to the game, which is pretty interesting. And I hope we get another SimCity someday, but I highly doubt it since there is a mobile version, and they're probably just going to stick with that. So, Ace, what's your comfort game?
My comfort game. Now, there are two that I would immediately turn to as, my comfort games. And before anyone says Warframe, no. I mean, yeah, Warframe's a game that I could sit down, kind of turn off my mind and just, you know, do missions, run, shoot, maybe do a little bit of build crafting because, I'm all about, you know, character progression and expression through build crafting, like I mentioned in The Way of Synergy the other week. But honestly, the two games that I really turn back to as far as like games that I play that really help me ground myself, that would actually be Monster Hunter and Final Fantasy VII. Now, Final Fantasy VII, I mean, yeah, we've already talked at length about just how how much of a formative experience and a transformative experience that game is. But one of the big things for me is that it was during the time where I was playing Final Fantasy VII alongside Bruce, actually, that I had sat down and started, writing and designing characters for, a personal project, a personal story of mine called Faded Edge. Now, Faded Edge had basically evolved from being, an early Final Fantasy VII fanfic, right? But then I hit that point where I was like, you know what? I want to make these characters my own. So I would take time to, kind of go back and, take some of the basic archetypes that each of the characters represent. It's like, what can I do to, I guess make them legally distinct, but not just make them legally distinct, but really, you know, put more of my own creative style into redesigning these characters, right? And every few years since then, I would kind of, go back to revisit these characters, revisit the story, revisit the world, and use that as something of a benchmark to kind of gauge, how my skill as an artist has improved, how my particular fingerprint as a storyteller has changed. You know, it's kind of a it's kind of a measuring stick that I would use to see, just how I had grown and how I had changed over the years. And, that, again, it was, since Final Fantasy 6 and 7 are like two of the games that really fundamentally changed how I look at storytelling, you know, I u- I used that, I used how much that changed me as a storyteller and how I look at storytelling to, gauge and just see where where I've come from and what direction I'm going. Kind of redefining myself. And then, of course, with Monster Hunter, you know, it's the fact that Monster Hunter is one of those games where preparation and persistence are rewarded. And about a about a year or so back now, maybe like almost 2 years now, after after certain events in my life, I had gone back and I had picked up Monster Hunter World again, and I sat down and noticed, there were a couple of monsters that I hadn't sat down, I hadn't done the fights for, I hadn't actually beaten even once. And I saw that, and it's like, if there's one thing that's if there's one thing that is going to really stick with me as far as who I am as a person as I grow, I hate having unfinished business. I hate having unfinished business. I hate when I have a challenge that I set forth for myself that I haven't completed. So I sat down with Oliver, and we talked about it for a little bit, and I told him, like, look, man, I haven't taken down Fatalis yet. I was in the middle of trying to do that before, you know, my life got flipped, turned upside down. And it's like, I really don't feel like I'll be able to move on or just grow up without finishing what I need to finish. So I sat down, went through the fights, learned, relearned the fight after not having played Monster Hunter for so long. And I eventually finally closed the book on that chapter. I got my last kill in Monster Hunter World, and I was able to finally put it down. But, even with that, even after getting that closure with Monster Hunter World, I've got no problem picking that up, going back to Rise, picking up picking up and playing Monster Hunter Wilds, because it's that same thing. It's the adversity, and it's retraining myself to it's retraining myself to walk into any situation with the mindset that so long as I'm still breathing, failure ain't the end. It's information.
Like the first match in a fighting game. Just download the data.
Yep.
All right, you heard that? You heard it here, folks. Ace loves torture. First comfort game.
Brother, I play fighting games, and I sometimes even play games like Dynasty Warriors on keyboard. Yes, I do love torture.
All right. Memory number 7, the surprise. What game surprised you this year? Something you didn't expect to enjoy? What changed your mind? That was easy. This was part of my A to Z gaming challenge, and I made a few reels and videos of this. I'm gonna have to say Doom 2016. I honestly did not expect much from Doom 2016. And I think you guys are the community has been part of that journey when I played Doom 2016, and most of them were watching me play it, so it was pretty fun. I just thought this was another generic first-person shooter, arcadey like shooter, and the main appeal of it was the look, the graphics, because it was very clean, very pristine, and it ran really well. Boy, howdy, was I very wrong. This is one of those games you have to play to understand why video games are fun. I think one of the first things I said when I got my hands on Doom 2016 was, "I get it now. I get the hype. I understand." And it gave me a clear conscious that this it was also a lesson too. It was like you don't know until you've put yourself in another person's shoes, right? So that to me was the big surprise that I got because I thought I just misunderstood this thing until I was in it, and I think that speaks volumes for a lot of things in life. In this case, it's just video games. Um, and I think the big thing about this too was it was straight to the point. You had a silent protagonist, which is very rare in today's game. A silent protagonist is very rare, you know. And they also like the big thing that in Doom 2016 that really hit, I thought like big props was the fact that they took the lore of the older games and applied it to the new game, and also like added his legacy, the legacy of just the Doom or Doom Slayer in this case, like it made sense. Like if like as a last week I was talking about how I had my first shareware disc playing Doom, right? 40 plus years later, I'm playing Doom 2016 and 20 in the year of our Lord 2025. And I'm like, this is a 40-year-old reference that took this long for me to get. Like if it's your first time playing Doom 2016 with no reference of what Doom is, you won't get it. But that's okay because there's enough lore in the game to kind of like for you to read and kind of catch up. But boy howdy, if you know all about it, you know the history of Doom, this game appreciates it. It knows what it's doing, and they did a good job of just kind of like putting you in this in the boots and the helmet of the Doom Slayer. So fantastic game, big surprise. I was genuinely just blown away, and I was like, this is a video game as video game. When I say that, that is a good thing. When I say it's a video game ass video game, it is a very good thing. And I did not expect that to be that good. And hopefully, Eternal and Dark Ages is good as well. So, looking forward to playing those. All right, yeah. Any gaming surprises this year for you?
Two that I could think of. One I actually share with Andre, that being Italia Yumia. Now, I Yumia was actually my first introduction to the series. Like, let's just say I'm in there. I got in there late, and I was unfamiliar with her game outside of like literally like I my first time even seeing any of the characters from that was when Yumia showed up in Warriors Abyss, and I'm
Mhm.
like, Yumi, who is this? So I unlock Yumi in Warriors Abyss. I start using her, and I'm like, all right, she's kind of cool. And then I go find the demo for for the game that she's from, and it's like, oh, okay, like this is a RPG that I was not expecting.
Mhm.
And between the alchemy, the exploration, the combat, it was very endearing because it felt a lot like I was playing it felt a lot like I was playing a working designs JRPG, but with more modern mechanics. That's the kind of vibe I got from it. So,
Pretty good take. Yeah,
yeah.
right on.
And the other big surprise for me that I played this year came out back in 2022, that being Chained Echoes. Now, Jagos was all about it. And he had been talking it up, and I thought, you know what? I think I will finally just go ahead and give it a look, see what the game's about, and give it a shot. I see the armors, I see the character designs, and I'm like, okay, what are we talking about here as far as armor? Like, what is this? What is sky armor? I jump into the game. and I am just immediately floored at just the level of technical skill that went into the visual design of the game. I mean, it immediately took me back to it immediately took me back to the Super NES, back to Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, and just the depth of the style in that game was absolutely phenomenal. And then I sat down and actually started playing it, and it's like, oh my god, they took Final Fantasy VI and Xenogears, but it's all still got that 2D, that classic 90s, Super Nintendo flair, but with more modern strategy elements and more modern, quality of life that wasn't available, limited by the technology of the time.
Mm.
And it didn't surprise me as far as whether or not I would like it, so much as it surprised me how much I wound up liking it, and just how deeply that game wound up affecting me, especially like two major story points in the game where I literally had to stop because I was getting straight up emotional.
Oh, for Chain Echoes.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
Well worth the price of admission, brother.
Speaking of emotional, number 8. What game reminded you of why you love gaming? Now, I'm gonna have to say this was a tough one because this was limited to last year, right? So I'm not going farther back than a year. This is the challenge of this question, but I'll read what I put down. The game that reminded me why I love gaming, not out of nostalgia, but because it still feels relevant today. Nick, that game was Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Yeah.
And the Mass Effect series as a whole. Now, I've always been a huge fan of Dragon Age, but somehow, for some reason, I've never played Mass Effect. And I know a lot of people who love the series has been telling me for years, you need to play Mass Effect, James. Why haven't you played Mass Effect? Well, I played it now, so y'all shut up. So when I hit the letter M in my A to Z gaming challenge, this felt like the perfect opportunity. And wow, they were right. Mass Effect reminded me why gaming is such a powerful medium. It's not just entertainment, it's an emotional narrative. Okay. It's like taking control of a book, except you are guiding the protagonist through the story, specifically in the Mass Effect game. Okay. What really stood out to me was how Mass Effect made you really feel like your choices matter, just like Dragon Age. The decision you make don't just affect the moment, they carry weight. They echo forward across the trilogy, and that sense of consequence keeps you invested. Now, you don't want to stop playing because you need to know what happens. It's not just the story, but to the characters whose lives you influence. That I'll put it really simple. If you made a choice in game 1, you're good, and you find out there's a game 3, you're gonna want to know why it happened in game 3. What happens in game 3? And I think that is the amazing way to sell sequels to a game. So I don't know why people or these developers have not been doing this enough. So there are not many games that can pull this off as well as Mass Effect or just BioWare in general. Okay. But the thing is, those choices lead to an emotional investment, right? And I would say Mass Effect Dragon Age is one of those few others that comes close, honestly. And I just wish more of these story-driven games were willing to commit to that level of player agency and long-form storytelling. Uh, if a publisher has a plan to make 3 games of something like Witcher, I think that would be the next best example, right? that should be something that happens in Witcher 4. Your choices in 3 should apply in 4 as well. Um, I don't know, is it too difficult? I'm not sure, but yes, I really hope the next Mass Effect is something special because after this year of playing the Legendary Edition, you're gonna hear this a lot. I get it now. I understand why everybody loves this game. So, all right. How about you, Ace? What game you played this year that reminded you of this wholesome goodness?
Chained Echoes.
Okay.
I again, it was it it took me back to it really took me back to my formative years, not just back when I first got into gaming, but it took me back to that time where it started to really click for me as far as what kind of storytelling was possible. And again, just how this game so effortlessly got me invested pretty much right from the jump. It reinforced, it reinforced for me the potential that gaming has as a storytelling medium. It reinforced for me why I even wanted to get into, why I even wanted to eventually get into game design or game development. Because, I wanted, at the core, I still want to tell the kind of story that, you know, I, you know, there's some stories that I would like to tell that, I want to share with the world. But also when I sit down and start actually trying to, build and design a game, I want to put together the kind of game that I would eventually want to play myself. And just from that thought process alone, I go, you know, I sat down, I played Chained Echoes, and I'm like, this is a firstly, this is a one-man show. But this is a one-man show where that one man put together the this was a passion project and he put together the game that he wanted to play. And it just turns out that it was one that I wanted to play too. And again, I got that feeling back, right? I got that feeling back where it's like, yeah, this this right here, this vibe, this skill, these stories, this is what it's all about. Yes, Andre, the gamer's Rob.
Hey, what's up, Vengeful? How's it going, buddy? All right. Going to our oh no, not the last one. Memory number 9. The Grind. This year. What game this year mirrored real life effort or discipline? Ooh. This one was pretty easy because I think there was one key game in my challenge that really echoed this, and it's not chained by any means. When I think about a game that I mirrored in real life effort and discipline this past year, that answer goes easily straight to Hades. Now, if we're talking about an all-time grind, no, not just last year, I'd pick Sekiro, right? But we're talking about last year. Hades is basically grind the game, right? And let me switch videos here for you guys. And what this is, you know, Hades gameplay loop. You play, you die, you take the lessons of why you died, you get back, get to it again. Now you have a new set of tools they unlock for you, and the knowledge that you got from dying and playing through the experience, then you apply it again to your run. And then rinse and repeat. It is a grind. That is the game is the grind. Is an allegory of our testament here at Gaming Academy and what I preach about in the final boss all the time. So I would say Hades makes one thing very clear ASAP. You're not beating this game on your first run. It's not meant to be. If you do, that's awesome. That's great. But progress in Hades comes from repetition, from failure, from taking what you learned in one run, your mistakes, your small victories, and applying that knowledge to the next one. Every loss unlocks something new. Every run teaches you something different. And every return makes you a little bit stronger, not just statistically, but mentally. This is why Hades works very well as a metaphor in real life. It's a roguelike, sure, but it mirrors how we move through our days. We're part of a system, a cycle. We don't always know what's coming next. Some days go well, some days reset us back to the beginning, but the key is this: you don't start over empty handed. You start over with experience. This is why it's okay to lose, but it's not okay to give up, because starting over again accelerates your success faster, even though you failed. Hades teaches you that losing isn't wasted time, it's preparation. You come back smarter, more disciplined, more aware. You try again. That's why the grind in Hades isn't frustrating, it's motivating. It's what captivates you to play it again. Okay, I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to use this time, right? Now, think about this, folks. If you applied that to your real life, you would have probably been at your goal, whatever that may be, a lot sooner. But a lot of people don't leverage video games as real life advice. But there's a lot of things video games can teach us, because that's what the grind really is. Showing up again when you know you might fail, armed with what you learned last time. Okay? That is the grind game ever. It's not MMO, it's not leveling up, right? I think that's a good way to depict what the grind is for me, at least. Ace, what about you?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that I did get in a couple of sessions on Hades this year, so I mean, technically that would count. But as far as games that like really encapsulated, just not just the grind, but really emphasized, what the core of what discipline is for me. I got to take it back to Monster Hunter Wilds, specifically the fight with the Final Fantasy 14 collab, the fight with Omega Planetus. Now, it's not just again, the discipline that it instilled in me as far as, being able to get up after a failure and, come back with the knowledge that I had acquired from the previous attempt. But also the thing about Omega, and especially the Savage variant, it showcases mechanics. And in doing so, it tries to teach you that before you can really before you can really put together your own style, before you can put together your own method, before you can put together your own build, you gotta learn the rules of the game first. If you can follow instructions, if you can do what you're instructed to do, to at the very least, succeed at whatever task you're trying to fulfill first, then not just with your previous losses, but also with that success, with following directions, that's when you'll have the knowledge, the skill, the patience that you'll need in order to figure out how you can do, what you need to do better. It doesn't have to be faster, but you will learn how to do it better.
I'd say Monster Hunter is a very good example for grinding also. Especially if you have like if you're a very vengeful person and you're like, I really hate this monster, like you want to grind that monster. For sure. I get it. I've had those moments. This is why I bonded with Nergigante.
Yep.
The terror. I respect them though. That's a thing, right? You respect them. All right, last one for Memory Card Chronicles, level 44. Memory 10. The current save file. Where are you right now as a gamer? What are you chasing? What do you value differently now? What does level 44 mean to you? Okay, well, this one's directed to me. I would say, where am I right now as a gamer? I thought about this and it was tough at first because I was like, what do I really want to talk about? But I think this is gonna spill over to the next topic here, segment. But honestly, I think it's the gaming industry. The gaming industry is in the middle of a shift right now. Gaming does not feel the same as it did 20 to 25 years ago. And that's okay. That's just how things are. We know now that players spend more time playing the same game more often than a variety of different games. Most people don't even finish games that they start, and we're living in a culture of battle passes, season passes, DLC, games that never really feel complete once we buy them. So where does that leave us? I think for me the answer is very simple. I'm not really chasing anything anymore. What I'm looking for now is a game that matches how I'm feeling in the moment. Do I want to be in outer space? Do I want to be a ninja, a warrior in a dark fantasy world, a street racer? There's a game for every feeling, and that's what I value now is fulfillment. For example, I just finished Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, the spiritual successor to Suikoden, and that game hit me in a very specific way. I clocked off at like 75, 80 hours in that game, and it's not even 100% complete yet. I'm not gonna trophy grind it, but it felt like a PlayStation 2 era game, complete, full, packed with side quests, side games, things to explore, things to develop and grow. That game came out in like 2017 or something like that. Not that long ago, 2023. For this one. Now, that experience reminded me of something kind of important. What I value now is hard work, a clear developer vision, and a game that feels complete. A game that's on a disc, a game that you don't need an internet connection to finish downloading before you can play it. Because to me, that matters. Because, physical media still matters, supporting devs still matters. And I try whenever I can to support developers, not publishers. That's developers, publishers, different. Because publishers are often the ones pushing the high prices, the aggressive monetization, and treating games like investments instead of art. That's just my opinion. That's not what gaming used to be, and I'm sure it's always been that way, but now it's more evident than ever before. Now, what does level 44 mean to me in gaming terms? I think it means perspective. We're actually living in an incredible time to be a gamer. There are more games than ever before. Free games, indie games, big games, small games, all the games. You no longer are limited by budget or access. There is something out there for every kind of player, right? My hope moving into to level 45 is this: that the community around video games continues to grow, continue to learn, that the industry realizes we don't need massive AAA budgets to make great games, as you can see with Expedition 33 in the latest game show. We just need a vision. We need talent. We need people, not AI, and people willing to create something meaningful. Goes back to what I said, right? These are people with their thoughts, feelings, putting it on paper, applying it with technical knowledge, and creating a product for the masses. So, yes, crossing my fingers for level 45 that the next level brings us gaming back towards artistry and a little bit further away from pure consumption. So, that is my my latest save file. I didn't want to be too doom and gloom, but that's just my thought. What about you, Ace? What do you think moving forward in the future?
Well, I'm at that point where, much like you, I'm trying to find more games that, more games that really try to tap into, you know, what what made gaming such a powerful medium in the first place, what made gaming as a medium and as a hobby, what made it so what made it so well beloved. But as far as a personal goal, for me, it's not about chasing. It's about building. It's about creating. You know, I'm trying to get back to, even with just, the free, even with just the free tools that are out, you know, trying to relearn the language of actually building a game again. You know, whether or not this, whether or not this materializes into a finished product or even a playable demo. If it does, great. If it doesn't, the knowledge is there, and the knowledge is what I'm most seeking, because I feel like, you know looking at gaming and experiencing gaming from that perspective, it's going to help me bring back something that I feel gaming has lost. And again, it goes back to the focus on, the focus on artistry, the focus on quality, consistency, optimization, actually putting together something that people can enjoy, not just something that'll, not just something that'll extract currency from the user base, whether it's monetary or temporal.
Indie games are the future. But
Pretty much.
yeah, I think that's that is where the future is going. But to get to the future, we would need to know what we come from and where we come from and what we're made of. So, but anyway, that is our Memory Card Chronicles for this week. All right, next segment, we were slide in here and go with the next one here. I had this image. Oops, wrong one. Wrong one. All right, here we go. We got ourselves the boss right there. Let's see if I can change that. I like that. That's better. It's uploading. All right, there you go. We're celebrating level 44 with this fancy headmaster image over here. So the next segment is called the next level. Actually, no. Yeah, that is the one. No, I skipped too much. So this is the games that built the headmaster. This is going to replace Quick Bites. Lightning fast, quick bits of gaming DNA and what builds me as a gamer. These are basically my top 10 games of how I grew up and what makes me like the games I like today. So pretty good. Gaming DNA, level 44. These games aren't just favorites. They're not nostalgia picks. They were part of my gaming DNA, the blueprint of how I learned to play and how I learned to think and how I became the gamer that I am today. Nice poem, right? Number 1. And I think I have I have another image here to show you. If I can find it. Right folder. I made this tier list for y'all. See, I'm curious how it's going to show up. Oh no, see, it's not going to show up properly. Let's go to this view. All right, if y'all can see that, this is my top tier list for gaming DNA. At number 1, you guys probably didn't know, but my number 1 favorite game of all time is Super Dodgeball on the NES. This game represents controlled chaos and awareness. Super Dodgeball taught me how to read situations quickly and positioning. Sounds like a fighting game. Timing and knowing when the aggressive or defensive, whether to be aggressive or defensive. It wasn't just about reflexes, it was about anticipation, adaptability, and anticipation. Now, this game planted an early understanding that competition can be expressive, strategic, and disciplined all at once, traits that still show up in how I approach games today. Also, it's made by Techno, so if you like the art of River City Ransom, they're the ones that made it, and that's why they look like that. Number two, Contra. Contra is where discipline and perseverance enter. No tutorials, no mercy. You learn patterns, you respected the rules, and you relied on your partner if you had one. Contra taught that repetition isn't punishment, it's preparation. This game shaped my appreciation for a challenge that feels fair, earned, and deeply satisfying. Number three, Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. The game that represents teamwork and shared momentum. Team NT, the arcade game, distilled the arcade co op experience into something immediate and accessible. Simple controls, clear roles, and constant forward movement emphasized collective progress over individual glory. It reinforced a core value that still matters to me today, which sometimes the best gaming experience are built around playing together, not alone, especially if you have a multi tap. Number four, to no one's surprise, SimCity for the Super Nintendo. SimCity introduced systems thinking into my gaming DNA. There were no enemies to defeat, only decisions to manage, balance, planning, and long-term consequences mattered more than quick reaction. This game shaped my love for design, patience, and building something sustainable over time. Number five, Final Fight, Super Nintendo. Final Fight represents control and situational awareness. You couldn't button mash your way through it. You had to manage space, control, crowds, and understanding pacing. This game taught me how to slow down in the middle of chaos and make deliberate choices. It reinforced discipline under pressure, especially if you only have one quarter. Number six, UN Squadron. UN Squadron added preparation and strategy to the DNA. Choosing the right aircraft and the right loadout mattered. Failure wasn't random, it was feedback. This game reinforced the idea that decisions made before the action can just be as important as execution during it. It blended planning with skill in a way that stuck with me. Having the wrong loadout for the wrong mission made your game a little bit harder. That's for sure. Number seven, the fighting game that started it all for me. Street Fighter 2 is the foundation of fundamentals, spacing, timing, matchups, and respect. This game taught that mastery isn't about flash, but understanding systems deeply. Every loss was a lesson, every win was earned. It shaped how I approach competitive games. Learn first, execute second. Number eight, Mortal Kombat, the competitive edition, what they call it in the Super Nintendo. It represents identity and confidence. It showed me that games could have attitude, tone, personality without sacrificing mechanics. Presentation mattered, style mattered. This game shaped my appreciation for games that aren't afraid of their own identity. You gotta distinguish yourself from from Street Fighter. Now, number nine, already 3 fighting games. See, it's like my DNA. Killer Instinct represents flow and expression, momentum-driven combat, combo systems, and an auto-visual feedback created a rhythm-based experience. It rewarded creativity while still demanding awareness and control. This game reinforced the idea that mastery can look different for every player. And what they call that, like combo expression, we call that back in the day. Number 10, Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo. Chrono Trigger represents reflection and meaning. It's about time. It literally is. It showed how gameplay, story, music, and choice could exist in perfect harmony. It respected the player's time and intelligence. Remember when I said I was really dumb about RPGs in the beginning of my gaming career, and then Chrono Trigger is literally one of the last RPGs I was playing exiting the Super Nintendo. So I thought it was very relevant. This game cemented my belief that games can be thoughtful, complete, and timeless. Now, class, when I look at this list, I don't just see great games, I see values they pass down on to me: discipline, patience, curiosity, respect for systems, respect for the player. These games didn't just shape my taste, they shaped the gamer I became. This isn't just my top 10. This is the blueprint of Headmaster GQ Asian Dude. So now you guys know a little bit more about me on, what games I grew up with, what really like stuck with me. When you make a list like this, it's hard to be like which one's the best. I would say these are all equal in my eyes. They just affected me differently. This is how this list is interpreted and reflected. So, yeah, remove that. So, Ace, you know what we're doing for your birthday? We're doing one of these.
Well, I got quite a bit of time to put one together.
But yes, we talked about the future of gaming. Before I go towards the final boss, I really wanted to share this with, the class, because I think after the Game Awards, it really showed us that there's a lot in the industry that's happening right now, and the people have spoken. People don't really care how much money you put in the game. Just make it fun. Just make it good. I don't care if 10,000 people made it, right? Because apparently under 50 people can make a great game and not cost you millions of dollars, right? And you can recruit talented people all over the internet to make an award-winning game. So with that said, we're moving on to the segment that I call the next level. Okay. And with the next level, this one is referred to the future of gaming and the role of the gamer. And I'll just read through this real fast. The future of gaming, it is as much as tonight has been about reflection, it's also going to be about where we're going next. Now, the future of gaming is complicated, and it's not a bad thing. The future of gaming is complicated, and it's not a bad thing. I repeat that. We're at a point where games are bigger than they've ever been, right? More accessible than ever before, more diverse than ever. And at the same time, more fragmented. We got live service games, battle passes, seasonal content, endless updates, and we've also got teams creating focused, complete experiences that rival anything coming out of the AAA space. So the question isn't, is gaming in trouble? No. The question is, what kind of gamers are we choosing to be? What do I tell you guys every time? You guys have more control and power of the industry than you think if you guys prove that with your action. You choose what you support, what you want to support, right? That tells the industry what kind of gamer you are. Being a gamer today isn't about owning a newest console. It's not about finishing every release. It isn't about chasing metas or keeping up with trends. Being a gamer today is about intent. It's about choosing experiences that respect your time, supporting creators who have vision, understanding that not every game is meant for everyone, and that's okay. A gamer isn't defined by how much they play, they're defined by how they engage. Now, do you learn from video games? Do you appreciate craft? Do you recognize effort when you see it? That is us. That is Gamer Quotient. This hat says right here, right? Our outlook for the future of gaming doesn't belong exclusively to massive budgets. It belongs to 1, clear vision, 2, talented teams, 3, focused ideas, and 4, respect for the player. I know those are all hot takes, and they shouldn't be, but apparently these days it is. We don't need every game to be 100 hours long. We don't need every experience monetized into pieces. We don't need every release to chase engagement metrics. What we need are games that know what they want to be. The industry doesn't move forward by getting louder. It moves forward by getting smarter. Now, they unveiled that High Guard game at the end, and everybody seems to be hating it because it's another hero shooter, because that's exactly what we all wanted, right? And so that is a telltale that they're not listening to us. They're listening to numbers. They're listening to data on a sheet, right? Ace, you have something to say?
No, I mean it's funny that you mentioned that because I was actually looking up some information about High Guard, and it's the first word that comes to mind is uninspired.
The fact that they saved it for last as to remember the gaming awards meant that had a prime spot in the award ceremony. But I think I'm going to be positive on this. But if they are using High Guard as like a reason for X Apex and Titanfall devs to get some spotlight, right? I get that, but is that the game that all the fans wanted? That's just my take on.
Well, I
What
mean
were
that,
you looking at?
well, I mean that's just it. It's another piece of evidence that tells folks if a game is starting off by using by using you know by using nostalgia as currency, it's something to be more wary of. Case in point, not just what happened with High Guard, but what happened with Mind's Eye.
That's definitely for another episode, my friend. But yeah,
It's like
well,
you
go
don't
ahead.
have to start. You don't have to make your first impression being, hey, remember when we did this? It should just be this, this is what we're working on. This is what we want to show the players. This is how we think we can get your attention and get you to sit down and get you interested in our game. We want to get you interested. We don't want to just pull you in because because you're trying to, return to a previous classic that we worked on.
Yeah, because the classic is what we care about, not not who made the classic, right? They're just the
Right.
byproduct of that classic.
I mean, the developers of Expedition 33, I'm gonna keep using this game as an example of how to do shit right because they did it right. But the developers of Expedition 33, they didn't go out there and just shout from the rooftops saying, "Hey, we're former Ubisoft devs," right? They didn't go, "We are former this, we are X this." No, they stuck with the present. They showed off what their game was looking like. They showed off the mechanics, got people's attention, developed what they needed to develop, released the game, and all they did was focus on developing a good game. You focus on making a good product. The popularity and the profit are the result. It's like
Don't tell
it's
me
like
that. Tell that to them.
it's like the lesson I learned in Monster Hunter. Like one major lesson. Focus on surviving the fight. Cool shit happens as a byproduct. If you focus on trying to do cool shit, you're not always going to survive the fight.
When are you gonna make that into the tech, man?
Oh,
Next year.
that's coming. Trust me.
All right. All right. Now, the goal of Gamer Quotient slash Game Academy. Now, the Gaming Academy was never meant to just be another game show. The goal has always been education, not in a classroom sense, but in a craft sense. We're here to talk about why games work, highlight what makes them meaningful, encourage thoughtful discussion, and respect the medium. Now, we don't chase outrage, we don't chase clicks, we don't chase negativity, we chase understanding. Because the more we understand games, the better gamers we become. As we move forward, the mission stays simple: celebrate great design, support developers with vision, encourage healthy, intentional gaming, and build a community that respects the craft. Gaming is art, gaming is design, gaming is collaboration, and Gaming Academy exists to remind people just of that. Now I'll close out this segment here with this. The future of gaming isn't something that just happens to us, it's something we participate in. And if we choose wisely, support thoughtfully, and play intentionally, the next level can be something special. Right? So that take that for as your nice little segment for our mission statement here for the show. Before I move on to the final boss, yeah, get any thing you want to add to that?
I think honestly, I think you said it perfectly. And again, it's not we're not about, we're not about chasing headlines. Well, we're not about chasing outrage, chasing negativity. We've got enough publications and enough outlets out there doing that already.
That's for sure.
You know, with with the academy, it's education, it's respect, it's conversation. It's a collaborative effort between us on the faculty and all y'all watching.
Yes, and we need your help to grow. So like, subscribe, tell all your friends, etc. All the above, all the buzzwords.
Right. It ain't just it ain't just the it ain't just the buzzwords for the algorithm that we're chasing here. It's again, we want to really make this meaningful, not just for us, but for y'all. Because if you're watching this, if you're listening to us, even if you just got us on in the background while you're, taking care of work at home, or you're actually listening to us at work on your downtime. If
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
we have hit that point where you actually feel like you're part of the conversation, then dollars to donuts, you're gonna want to come back for more, right?
Always, always. With that said, I want to share this shirt that was specifically designed by Tragically Elite. And this shirt is the Next Class Lion graphic tee. This is a parody of Welcome to the Next Level that was made famous by Sega. Since he's our Sega boy on the team, wanted to honor his interest uh, with that. So check that out. It comes in white or black. Pretty cool. Depends what your flavor is. I suggest black. It's pretty cool. This pop has the gamer quotient colors on it as well. Comes in different sizes. And don't forget to use the code GQ Asian Dude. I think that's still up for 10% off. So just know that it goes strictly for that. I'll tell Nick if you buy a shirt, I'll let Nick know. He'll love that. He designed the shirt. So keep that in mind, guys. Appreciate you guys. All right. With that said, now that the grifting has been taken care of. Oh, that's
Now,
so funny. I said that, and it shows up on the chat. Good job.
now that the shameless self promotion portion of
Yeah.
our seedings is done,
We're gonna move to our final segment. Your favorite segment, my favorite segment, the final boss. I might change that to like the last chord of the Sephiroth's theme. Like, just drum roll. Brrr, boom. That'd be fun. I'll try that. I try to edit that. But yes, today's show, the final boss. You've trained, you've leveled up. Face the final boss. Over here. Oh, hold on. There it is. Okay. All right. Now, tonight's final boss is called Playing the Long Game. Headmaster Edition level 44. All right, hold on to your butts. Extra points for you if you guys know where that's from. Now, if there's one thing gaming has taught me over the years, it is this. That the long game reveals who you really are. Now, at level 44, I've realized something important. The real grind isn't about speed. It's about consistency. You'll hear that word a lot in your life, especially from your bosses. Anyone can sprint at the start. Anyone can chase hype. Anyone can get excited about a new release, a new system, a new meta. But players who last, they're the ones who keep showing up. Gamers have always rewarded patience, or games have always rewarded patience. You don't master a system in one session. You don't beat the hardest boss in your first attempt. Maybe you do, and you're just gifted like that. You learn, you fail, you adapt, and you try again. That's the long game. We talked about this throughout the show today. The grind, not giving up, adapting, perseverance, etc. We live in a time where everything pushes us towards shortcuts, battle passes, season passes, artificial progression, and all that. Games that look like they're rewarding you, but don't actually ask you to grow. And I'm not saying those games are wrong, but they're not the games that stay with you. And we said a lot of games tonight. Now, if you were to make a gaming DNA top 10, I would love to see that. Share it on our Discord. I would love to see what is your top, your 10 things that create is your gaming DNA. Now, the ones that stay with you are the ones that respect your time, the ones that challenge you, the ones that don't rush you to the finish line, but ask you to earn every step forward. Games like Hades teach you that failure isn't wasted time, it's preparation. Games like Sekiro teach you that your real life experience isn't a stat, it's knowledge. And games like Mass Effect reminds you that your choices carry weight long after the moment passes. Now, at level 44, I don't play games just to keep up anymore. I play them to connect. I play them to reflect, to feel something real. And that's just the same approach I've learned to take with life. You don't need to rush the process. You don't need to compare your save file to someone else. And you definitely don't need to win every fight to make progress. You just need to keep playing with intention. Okay? So if there's one lesson I'll leave you guys with tonight is this. Play the long game, finish what matters, learn from every loss, and don't confuse movement with progress. Because at the end of the day, the real final boss isn't time, it's whether you're willing to show up again tomorrow, smarter, steadier, and ready for the next level. See what I did there? All right. Anyway, that was the final boss for this week. Playing the long game. So hopefully, y'all enjoyed that special birthday edition of Gaming Academy. I figured that we do something a little bit different for these special days. And whose birthday is it next? Is it Nick or yours?
It'd be Nick's birthday.
I don't know. Yeah,
Mine was literally a month ago.
Okay. Is Nick still in chat? Chat. Bother Nick. Tag him. Ask him in Discord that what his birthday is, and we'll plan one out for him. He's probably going to be talking about Sega. He's probably going to be talking about BioWare. I'm just guessing that right now.
Sega, a lot of BioWare.
Yeah. Maybe some Chicago Bears in there. So, but yes, that's going to do it for class 57, the Gaming Academy. That is not what I had written down. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Where did I put it? Oh, you know what? I had such a good time tonight. It's all good. We make mistakes. I got excited, and I look forward to. What does next week look like? The 23rd.
Yeah, that's the fight before Christmas.
All right, that could be something that we could do. Just a fighting game lobby that night. The fight before Christmas, especially.
Yep, I know Nick wanted to do the retrospective.
Okay, yeah, we can do that too. All right. Anyway, tonight on Class 57 of Gaming Academy, to be reflected on the memories that hooked us, the games that challenged us, and the connections that shaped us, and the grind that keeps us moving forward. From Memory Card Chronicles, a Headmaster Edition, to the games that built the Headmaster, and finally, the final boss playing the long game. This class was about more than games, it was about growth. If you're out there grinding your own life creatively, mentally, professionally, just know this: progress isn't always show up immediately, but it always counts. Thank you for having us out tonight, chatting with us, learning with us tonight. Make sure to follow, subscribe on Twitch, YouTube, etc. Check out Ace's stream. Is it just Blazing Ace Nelson, right? On Twitch.
Mhm.
Is it the Blazing Ace Nelson?
Nope, just Blazing Ace Nelson.
Okay. But until then, folks, learn to craft, master the game, because you've trained, you've leveled up. Now face final boss. We'll see you next week on the fight before Christmas. I like that one. And I don't know what the retrospective will be, but I'm sure it's gonna be fun. You're gonna reinstall Tekken? Are you sure you want to do that?
Are you sure about that?
Do you remember what happened when my friend Jack's friend challenged me with so were you there for that, Ace? Did you watch that?
No.
So Jack's friend, one of my friends, found out that I play Tekken, and
Mhm.
he was like, "Oh, you play Tekken? I play Tekken." I was like, "All right, well, add me and I'll fight you." And I had taken a break, and I started playing Street Fighter 6, right? When he told me, I go, "When Armor King comes out, I'll come back, learn Armor King, and I'll practice with you, and we'll spar, right?" And he was like, and then my buddy was like, "Dude, he can beat you. He plays Anna. He's so good, right?" And like, I forgot what rank he was, but he went to, do you know WFG.GG?
Oh no.
You know what that is? Or
Mhm.
EWF.GG? .GG. Let me see if I can find this. Is that right? Like Electric Wind Godfist.
WGF.
Yeah, EWGF.GG. I'll show the chat what I'm talking about, so I won't get exposed. Okay. So I go, just go to this website if you wanna if you wanna fight me, like if like, so you can get an idea who you're going up against.
Mhm.
So I'll share this now. Yep. Okay. So this is my stats on Tekken 8.
Mhm.
That's right, baby. Right there. That's right. Hail to the king, baby. So and I said, if you want to fight me, like, feel free. I have two characters. I have Jin and I have Armor King. And he goes, "Bro, you have 664 wins?" And I was like, "Why are you looking at just wins? Look at how many matches I have." So if I have 664, I have 597. That's 600 basically. So I have 1200 games of Tekken, right? And he's like, and I think I looked at his. He had like maybe 300. And I said, "Okay, well, if you don't want to play my Jin, I'll play Armor King, because I've never played him before, and that'll be a good time to play."
Mhm.
I think Andre was there watching that. But anyway, he's good with Anna. He has the concept of the game. He beat me with Anna because you can tell, and I'm trying to learn Armor King. So I guess he kind of like won like maybe like 7. He had 10 wins. I had 6 or 7 wins, right? And
Mhm.
he won out of the first 10. And I was like, all right. Well, I was like, do you mind if I switch to Jin, so you kind of get an idea of like what 1200 matches looks like, right? And I continue to body him 10-0 on with Jin. And it's not about like, oh, I'm so much better. It's just like, that is what repetition and grinding with a character does to you. Is
Mhm.
you'll know everything about the character, frame data, what goes with what, and that's the difference between learning Armor King that I only had 200 matches in versus 1200 matches in, or 1200 matches in. And it went from 7 to 10 to 10-0. Like, that's the grind right there. So I'm just letting you guys know that is a good example of experience, right?
Yep.
Which is weird because Jin's like lower ranking than my Armor King. I think that's like fake. So it's fake news right there. But yeah, have a good night, guys. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Whatever we do, we'll keep an eye on our socials. Have a good night.
Class dismissed.